there's a situation where you being a senior architect, an architect in the company, you have to go get your project, because those days, if you have to go stand in front of a CTO of another product company and get a hardcore product development project, you have to be tech enough. You have to be really technically strong. A good product manager is somebody who has empathy to the customer, understands the problem statement, and also enjoys execution into it. At the end of the day, they have to ship things. We don't want it, there is no product manager who's loved when he or she, doesn't ship a feature for, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, that's boring.
You have to ship as quick as possible, as less bugs as possible, right? So which means that you need to learn the art of defining comprehensive feature which can be shipped in a reasonable time.
to 3.75 trillion right now. To 37, growing 10 times from now is $37 trillion. And from 1947 to 2047 is 100 years.
100 years.
What else is a better time to be in India, especially our kids? Is there any other country that can be placed at this place and you want your children to grow up?
Of course. I mean, I don't know what else you can expect. India probably will be the second largest economy in the world. I don't
China
know
taking over.
I don't know whether it'll be China who will move up or US stays there. So
China is probably already in 19.
Yeah, $20 trillion. US is about 25, 30. I mean, in that range. But
clearly, China will be the largest.
China probably, maybe.
Wow.
But India will be the second for sure. So
right.
I of course, I don't think there's no other place that better than India for now. So if you look at from a GDP point of view, growth point of view, right?
That's amazing. Wow, this is real scale that we're talking. And that brings us to the next episode of Reset to Zero. Welcome, Sri.
Welcome, Ramesh.
Build big calculations out there. You're talking about India being the golden bird, Sone ki chidiya, as what it was called earlier. And you're talking about your kids growing up in India. 25 years from now, you're going to be a big man. So with that, this is our next podcast called Reset to Zero. And today, let's talk a little bit about Sri. And we'll put him on the hotspot. We'll talk because he made a decision. In all his interactions, he calls himself an engineer turned product manager to an entrepreneur. We understand the entrepreneur bit quite well. You're a second-time entrepreneur right now. Let's talk a little bit about the transition from being an engineer to a product manager. And you were back in the US, right? So clearly you made a great decision in coming back. With foresight, if I may say that in 100 years, India is going to be a $37 trillion economy. But tell me, walk us through, hey, what do you call yourself? Why do you introduce yourself as an engineer turned...
but I didn't expect this connect, Ramesh, but I just came back just to have a more peaceful life here. So that's how I made my decision. But I think, happy to go through the journey, right? Because I basically am an engineer, per se, was a software engineer per se, was a transition into an architect, more of that. And then over a period of time, I think I had opportunities. I should say that I was one of those people who were lucky enough, even when I was in the US and all that, I had opportunity to be in front of customers more often than probably a typical engineer would be, right? And over a period of time, I basically picked up a lot more empathy on what customers were going through using some of the products. I was also part of a hardware team that time, and then became a software engineer after that. I basically built up, slowly, got in the habit of showing a lot more empathy on what customer would be facing. And that's how, I started becoming a product, manager, right?
Empathy when you're an engineer, how is that even possible?
So you start understanding, what are some of the important problems your customers are facing, right? And how you solve it, is what you do. You focus when you become an engineer. And after you start looking at it from a customer point of view, right? You'll start thinking, how better can I even define the problem, right? Mm-hmm. And that really excites you, right? Hey, instead of just looking at how to solve the problem, you get more excitement in understanding why you want to solve this problem and what is that most important problem, right? And those questions starts, taking you towards a different role, which didn't have a definition at that time, right? In fact, I transitioned into a business development. I started talking to more customers. There was a time where when I moved back to India, I did move as an engineer because I was one of the software architects, and I was part of a startup which was doing I would say boutique service into storage and virtualization space.
I mean, you probably came down into India becoming a product manager, but I just want to
No,
spend.
no. I came to India as an engineer.
Okay.
I was part of a startup where I was one of the or probably the only architect in the team. But there was a small team of about 10, 20 people as a startup because I always wanted to come back to India and be part of a startup. But this was the time when there was a recession, 2006 or 2007. We lost all our customers overnight, and we didn't have a choice. But I didn't have a choice but to make outbound call like what we do today. I had to make calls to people who I know in the tech side and ask for some projects for my startup. That's how I started talking to people. Then then it becomes like you understand the requirement. Being a technical person, I was able to understand because I was calling in CTO of the company,
Like,
right?
you are probably in a much luckier position where an engineer gets exposed to a customer and customer problems because that's not what we see very often.
Correct.
Engineers being in their dimly lit room trying to code away. You probably got lucky there.
No, I don't know whether I got lucky there, but I made a choice to come back to India and join a small team, right? So that decision comes with its own bells and whistles, right?
Right.
It also came in a time where I moved back, there was a recession, and we had a couple of really solid customers, but they all fight back and still back then, right? So what happened is that we only had hardwares left, we had some software we built for them, we only had a lot of knowledge to showcase, and that's when we started making outbound. I remember there was a site called the Byte and Switch, which I used to follow. This was basically back in 2007-8, where it was all about startups and storage. And at that time, this was, I remember, like similar early part of the year where they launched the top 10 startups in storage, you need to watch out for. I was talking to my boss back then. I said, hey, you know what? His name is Vijay. I said, hey, Vijay, I'm going to make a call to these 10 startups and see if we can basically get a project and basically an outsourcing project where we could build the product. In the over a period of 12 months, we ended up having 6 of the top 10 startups there becoming our customers. That's when we built, between 2007 to 2008, we built a service startup which was boutique in social virtualization. And that grew from a 10 people company to 200 people company. Right. That was my transition from being an engineer into a customer facing person, understanding the requirements and delivering it successfully. And that I had opportunity to work with a lot of CTOs and CPOs, and then I decided to build my own startup, and that's my transition from becoming an engineer
To a product
manager.
Interesting, because you would also had the opportunity. If you're an engineer, I'm assuming you're coding pretty well. So you would have had the opportunity to go down, or rather go up the architect way.
Yeah.
Right? You would have had the opportunity to become the CTO.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the love of technology in general itself. But you did say that you spoke to a lot of customers, and that naturally, was it a natural ascend to becoming a product person, or was it a choice, a decision that you chose to become, let's say, enough of engineering, I cannot code as much, this is boring, I want to do more product because I intuitively understand customer problem?
No, I think given a choice, I would still think like an engineer even today, right? I think I would say it was more for survival. Well, I need to basically, being one of the founding members of a startup, I need to basically get the company back and run. We had 20 employees for whom we had.
I thought it was a sales job.
No, it was not a sales job. That's what I'm saying. We have to, there is a situation where you being a senior architect, an architect in the company, you have to go get your project, because those days, if you have to go stand in front of a CTO of another product company and get a hardcore product development project, you have to be tech enough. You have to be really technically strong, right? That's when you transition into then you understand what is the hard problems they're solving. Then you become, a person who's becoming enjoy solving problems.
Right.
That's the transition which happens from somebody, understand the problem statement, then you try to solve the problem. Then, and those days there was not even a definition of product manager. I would say product manager is a role which is becoming popular in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think real product manager even existed.
There was a project manager, but never heard of.
Correct. So that's a whole transition, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into SaaS, right? The definition becomes much more clearer, right? But if you can take a step back, like you said, I also got lucky because I had gone through a lot of things where, you need to get in front of customers. You had a survival issue of setting up your company. Then you understand problem,
right?
And you try to solve the problem, right? That's the transition, for somebody who was enjoying writing a code, close to the hardware, to becoming somebody who understands the problem of the customer, is basically the transition that happened in the last, I would say, 20 years. but it took time. But
Okay, I'm itching to ask a question of what the connect is between an engineer and the product. I've kept it for the end, but I'll probably ask that right now. So, if you're solving for customers' problems and that's what you love doing, and we saw the company grow because of that, is just mere code to a screen that is the transition. So, if we show a screen, they probably understand the product, and because you're intuitively kind of think of the entire cycle. So, is it just moving from coding to that beautiful screen that solves the customer problem? Is that what interested you?
I think it's even one step before that. So
Okay.
what is the customer pain point? Is really the excitement there. How you solve it is basically there are different routes to that. It's like
I mean, but the end of it, it's a screen, right? It's wow, okay, my ticket is getting captured here, or you say, wow, this is where a customer would love seeing. Is it a screen that?
no, it is not the screen, Ramesh. It is about what screen you're designing to solve a particular customer problem, right? And also the process of deciding if this is the most important problem a customer would pay for. I think that is the whole decision process, which basically makes the product more exciting. Because there are a lot of problems. If you go talk to a bunch of customers, they're going to give you a handbook of problems. But
Right.
now there is a process in which involves understanding the domain, learning the technology, also understanding, hey, what is the most important problem for which a customer will be willing to pay. So that is the whole connect. So
Fair enough.
good product managers, you could go through all of them, are ones who build products for which customers consistently pay.
Okay, lot more questions coming away. So we're talking about good product managers, right? So how do you identify good product managers? Like, what's their DNA based
Yeah.
off? Like, what's their spine made up of? And
So I think I would say the product managers come from different, horizon. There's no one path
Science
to
of
basically
becoming-
become a product manager, right? Now today, if you go ask somebody, I think in a SaaS company typically, I would say any given day, 20% of the population in a company, employees in a company, want to become a product manager, right? That's how fancy it is becoming. But product managers can come from anywhere. They can come from engineers. I've seen good product managers who have been designers who are becoming product managers. Good business people, the customer facing, folks who are customer facing roles become good product managers because they understand the customer problem better. A kind of a designer understands, can design product better. Even they understand the customer problem better. And good engineers who understand, who empathize customers can become good product managers. End of the day, right? A good product manager should have inclination towards customer problem. The most important thing is that when you sign up for a product manager, you also sign up not to get frustrated.
You give me an example, Jeshri, because it sounds like a very business related role. Because if I understand a customer's problem as a sales guy, or if I understand a customer's problem as a customer success or a customer support, but I'm a very good at customer support as well. I'm not necessarily a product manager.
You're not.
So,
You're not.
right? So give me an example of who you would, when you say if someone understands a customer problem, they would be a good product manager. What is that DNA? Like, what do you look at in the interview process? Because
No. I get what you're saying. See, the crux of the matter is like you need to understand the customer problem, right? That's like first or second grade clearing that. The most important thing is that do you have the appetite to solve the problem, right? Not every support engineer, like you said, who understand the customer problem also is willing to solve the problem, right? So how do you solve the problem?
can you give an example of how you see customer support exec who's probably gone to a product manager to get a problem solved? Because that would be
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's take an example, right? It could be a support engineer, or it could be a previous engineer, even sometimes even sales engineers, right? There might be a customer who says that, hey, I'm interested in basically, I basically wanted to, have a particular, say, for example, let's take a step back. Now, let's say this particular support person or customer facing person is in front of a customer.
Yeah.
Right? And the customer says that, I'm using a software and I have issues in managing it.
Correct.
Right? They say that it is slow, or he's basically giving you 5 features to basically build
5 problems.
five features. Typically these days, customers are also well educated.
Oh, really?
They come and
Okay.
give you feature
Yeah.
names. I need X, Y, and Z. A good product manager, potential product manager, who's basically currently doing a customer facing role, would try to understand what is the pain point. When I say what is the pain point, he will basically go deeper and understand like, hey, what is this pain point which is making them inefficient? Is it basically making
them
that
ask for the feature.
ask the customer, is he going through any hardship? Is the customer going through any difficulty?
Okay.
right? Why is it important for the customer? Is something they would be eager to understand. Now they will not stop there. There are good, efficient, people who are doing the customer facing role who might also try to understand the pain point. But on top of that, they would need to go back to probably an engineer and take an effort to explain that to engineer so that he or she understands. See, that translation is very, very important.
Okay.
The customer understands, he or she understands the pain point, and the customer understands the benefit of solving that problem. Also makes a validation that he or she, who's a customer, will pay for it. But they goes back to the engineering team or the product team, also puts an effort to explain the problem statement so that they understand,
Okay.
and follows through until that it goes to production. So this is all about execution. A good product manager is somebody who has empathy to the customer, understands the problem statement, and also enjoys execution end to end.
It's a very nice definition, given that a product manager doesn't go through a specialization in a school of MBA, right? You have a design school,
Absolutely.
you have national, various institutes, you have a school for finance, you have an MBA from marketing, where they teach you everything under marketing, right? You have, everything is about customer and all that. You have finance, HR,
Yes.
blah blah blah. Finance. There is no MBA specialization for product. Now, maybe there are a few that are coming up given that industry is now. So the same problem that you spoke, right? If they have the empathy and the way they can explain this, it's not taught in school, right? It's taught probably as soon as they hit the shop floor, as soon as they hit that. So what is the education that goes behind this? One is definitely, you say it's inbuilt in a person to the ability to go and translate. So product managers are born, they are not made in some sense.
Ramesh, the most important thing, Ramesh, it is not like this is not somebody who's going to be dropped into the earth kind of a thing, but these are all people who evolve. But the most important thing is that an effective product manager is somebody, who enjoys collaborating with people, because it's a very complex role where you are in the middle of a lot of people, right?
Right.
But there are multiple stakeholders. So there are few things which needs to be very clearly thought. This person, he or she, needs to be enjoying execution. Cannot get frustrated because you need to be a good listener.
Right.
Right? You cannot get frustrated. And the most important thing is that, you need to be the one who enjoys being in front of the customer, right? Unless people don't see you as a problem solver, right? Nobody, be it a customer facing person or the engineer or the designer, is going to really rally behind you, which means that a product manager is somebody who has to be doing practically. There's nothing much you can learn on the board here.
Uh-huh.
A product manager he or she can come from any of these roles, but it is an evolution process where a person starts in a customer facing role, or a person starts an engineer or designer. They start evolving. They have to have curiosity to learn like what is going on in front of the customer. They have to have the curiosity to learn how it is built in the engineer,
Right.
and then also go back to the customer and then convince them, buy the product, make them pay.
So all of you out there, words of wisdom coming here when she says, so if you think you missed out on being on the product manager bus, it's never too late.
Never too late.
Right? As long as you are passionate about customer problems and you're able to translate that to an engineer to go and build whatever that you said.
And also have the guts to take back what you built to the customer back.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, I also see a lot of people, and everybody has seen a lot of people who want to become product managers. They think if I can have an excellent communication skill, I can become product manager. We all become a marketer.
Right. All right. So that's for another day.
Right.
So tell me this, give me an example in your previous organizations or wherever that you work. Have you seen anyone from the sales or pre-sales, because these are primarily people who are closer to the customer, come to you, speak to the engineer, ship the product, ship the feature, and then gone back, clear the entire cycle, and then you said, wow, this guy is a product manager who should be on my team. So, because at the end of the day, there's no product management being taught as specialization. So the only way you can have product managers build that tribe in your organization is by understanding who could be one. So recruit them from within. Correct. So can you walk us through an example of a real-time scenario where you have seen this and then they've ended up becoming your product manager?
Yeah, I think I would just have to admit that I've made a lot of hiring mistakes, right? That's how you.
That goes. That's fine.
But having said that,
I'm sure you had superstars as well.
yeah, I mean, having said that, I think the whole process of identifying a potential product manager within your own teams is the best way to basically build your team. It's just a mix of both. You got to get people from outside, also get people from inside, because the understanding about your customers can be a default knowledge when you basically go inside and go find a
Fair.
product manager.
That's so.
That's
Can you walk us through an example of this?
Because
of
I've
this
seen
person?
I've seen people coming from sales, pre-sales, program managers, right? But what I look for is that I look for somebody who has done their current role exceedingly very well. So they have to be really outstanding in what they do, right? Only then I really even talk to them for an opportunity for product. The second most important thing I look for them is that do they have a side hustle, right? Is this a person is always willing to take a side hustle? Because a good product manager has to be an excellent hustler, because every day you need to go behind people, go behind problems you are solve. So one good, I would say a skill which I look for somebody who's internal is he or she is a good hustler. If he or she is a good hustler, and if he or she has done a great job in the current role, I would basically kind of tell them, hey, can you take a side hustle in terms of trying to ship something? You can work with 3 people, 4 people, key stakeholders. I'll think, hey, why don't you take it as an opportunity to the side? Try to see if you can ship something or do something, on your own side. Only when they clear that litmus test, I even look at them as an opportunity full time.
How many times have you got that opportunity? Because you said you made hiring mistakes. So
I always look for a product manager when I was in my previous role from anybody who was having this, who's a good hustler. But I would say I'm being successful only 10-20% of the time.
That's not a bad conversion rate there.
But people who've been successful, at least had transition, or people who had the passionate, attitude towards it. Their attitude is what made the difference. In fact, another most important, I would say, trait I've seen in that people with always positive, attitude, people who are go-getters. I've seen that the probability of they becoming a successful product manager.
So the ideal person in life, Lord Sri Rama, is probably a product manager. Like he ticks every box in the list. And if you're smiling, so if you want to become a product manager in Sri's team, be smiling and ensure that you're talking to customers, ensure you're talking to engineers, and there's a chance that you probably become a customer.
Yeah,
manager, right?
And also everybody wants to become a Rama as well, right now these days.
Clearly. so that's
so it is easy. So it's very inbound. So you would
Right.
always have, if you're in a reasonable size team, 50-member team, 100-member team, company or startup, you'll always have somebody coming and saying that, see, what does it take for me to become a product manager?
right.
It doesn't matter. I've not heard this from HR and finance. This is the only 2 roles where people have not come to me and said, hey, Steve, I want to become a product manager. Anybody else, any other role, invariably, they had come approach me and say that,
Have you, in your lifetime, have you seen any odds out of this, like from an HR? Because I
think I've seen
can recollect examples of people from HR becoming a product manager.
yeah, I've seen one occasion where I have seen one HR person, but he was an engineer. He was not an MBA HR,
Right.
So that was one person who basically I've seen had become a product manager because he also had that business sense more often, and then always loved, talking to customers.
Okay.
Right. In fact, that particular person who was an HR always wanted to talk to the customer to even hire a product manager. That kind of a person he was, right?
Okay.
So it's very rare to see.
So
I've not seen.
they're more of a product manager who turned to becoming an
He
HR
was an engineer
It's a
turned
very
HR person,
HR person,
right?
right.
That kind of a person. But in general, I would say anybody who's more tech savvy roles, I think chances are that they already were scoping for becoming a product manager.
All right. That's good. Okay, just shifting gears. Now, you're always a proponent of PLG. You've spoken about PLG in a previous podcast. You've spoken about loops, funnels. You always talk about, hey, how does one take a route inside the product? You figure out smaller metrics probably, and then the business grows that way. You're a proponent of PLG. I'm sure people in your team have always looked upon, your product manager is always looking at loops and funnels, right?
Of course.
But how is a product manager for a PLG different from a non-PLG product/company? Like, is there a difference at all? Because these are traits. Are you talking about traits of a product manager only for a PLG motion, or is it different?
No,
from
there are the product managers also have different. They have to look at things differently, right? if you look at it, for example, PLG driven product, right? The product manager has to be more iterative in nature, right? They need to go back, be very flexible, and learn as they learn, as the customers use. That's the way I would look at a product manager for a PLG product. But if you look at more of an outbound, large customer driven products, the product manager should be very outbound in nature, should be willing to build relationship with the customer. So that is very, very important, because unless the product manager doesn't build a relationship with the customer, with a few large customers, few high paying customers, he or she will not be successful in building a product for a very enterprise setup. So the whole
What's the main difference there? Because when you're saying you have to be very close to the customer, it's also the, let's say, customer success manager or the account executive who's very close, who kind of understand the job. But when do you see the transition for them turning into a product manager?
No, the customer success person, every customer success person might want to become a product manager, but that really is not the path unless they enjoy building the process. There's also a build process in as part of
Tell
the
us,
product
talk to us a little bit about the build.
Yeah. So the build process is basically is that one is that you understand the customer product. You try and make all the efforts to really understand the pain point and the benefits of solving that. Now, the most important part of build process is that building the skill of taking those trade-offs. Right? How do you make a trade-off? Because end of the day, if you look at, you're going to hear as a product manager, you're going to hear requirements from a salesperson, pre-salesperson, customer, right? Your senior leadership, your investors, your board member, everybody's going to give you a bunch of features to build because he or she thinks that's the best thing for the company and the product. As a product manager, you have to take a step back, analyze. Little bit of analytical skill is very important to understand. Go back, look at the product, and look at the customer usage, and then make a decision. Ability to make a decision, ability to arrive at a decision to pick a bunch of things, because there's only finite resource. Because the most important thing to understand is that a product manager always work with limited resource. There is no company, no startup which is going to give you, I have all the people in the world to build a particular feature or product, which means that you need to optimize for your resources, which will drive them to making that critical trade-offs. And that's a skill a product manager will pick up over time. They're going to make mistakes, and that's the only way they can learn. And that is the reason why, every customer-facing, a person would not be an efficient product manager, because they get frustrated in this process. This build process can be very frustrating because it is not like writing a poem. I can't just build every feature I hear from everybody else. I don't have the liberty because there's a limitation in the available resources. So which means that the product managers who are effective product managers learn to make decisions quicker, right? And when you ask me the question between PLG versus a non-PLG product, a PLG product will have little bit more leeway in building a product, which basically a customer will be willing to take that iteration.
Right.
Can go early to the market. But if you're talking to an enterprise customer, outbound based sales, you need, so which means that your cycle of building this whole build process can become much longer.
Yeah.
So you need more patient product managers. They're willing to stay, willing to work
Rama Plus.
Yes. Rama Plus, but also iterative in nature. See, that's the whole idea, right? Even though if I have to look at one or two metrics for a product manager, I would look at how quickly they can ship.
Yeah, that's my next question.
Yeah, how quickly they can ship.
Right.
And also with less number of bugs. Right? The craftsmanship is very, very important. But my definition of craftsmanship was
let's
let me finish the definition of craftsmanship. My definition of craftsmanship was that how efficiently you can build, how well you can build a product, but at a reasonable time. You can't keep building a product or a feature for, let's say, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. Those days are gone. Right? Here, you need to come in.
So for an enterprise product,
even still for enterprises, you should have an iterative model where you push things to production. Whether you open up to customer or not is a different question. Right? Push it to production. Every product manager should have inclination to shipping things to production. Only then he or she will be forced to make the trade-offs. Right? So that, the optimization is to push it to production. Right? The moment you push it to production, then all the other aspects will come in together. So you will know that where to
stop.
But
there is in case of a non-PLG company, right? If you push it to production, there is a risk of breakages.
No.
And in a non-PLG, I'm assuming, you are going outbound and there are bigger customers in the product. The chances when you do this iterative process, like when you do it really fast, which is what you're alluding to, for a non-PLG company, if you're pushing into production much faster, wouldn't that really harm this whole cycle of?
No, it is not faster doesn't mean bad quality, Ramesh. That's what I'm saying. Either your metric is that it's a balance between how quickly you ship to production, also how lesser bugs you generate in the production. It's a combination of those two things.
Okay.
So that is that's a skill, right? It's a more of an art and a science, right? That's the reason, you see very few, far and few effective product managers. Everybody, there's also churn. There are enough churn who basically aspire to become product manager. They also over a period of time, also figure out, smart product managers, smart people also figure out this is not my cup of tea, right? And then they move on also, because end of the day, it's a grind, right? And it's a grind. So literally every product manager should wear the cap of being a CEO of that particular feature or product.
Right. And coming, because you mentioned about successful product managers, what are metrics as a product manager that you do probably because of its customers?
See, the most important North Star metric is basically revenue. So every product manager should build things only when they could have an impact on the revenue or the growth of the product or company. Otherwise, most of the cases, I'm talking about 80%, there could be exceptions, it doesn't make sense, right?
Okay.
Now, having said that, for a product manager to be efficient, they should look at the number of, at the end of the day, they have to ship things. We don't want it, there is no product manager who's loud when he or she, doesn't ship a feature for, let's say, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, doesn't work.
Right. I mean, that's boring.
You have to ship as quick as possible, as less bugs as possible, right? So, which means that you need to kind of learn the art of defining a comprehensive feature which can be shipped in a reasonable time. Basically, a feature which can be useful, because you cannot build things which is not useful for the customers. You cannot build something which a customer will not pay.
What she is saying is, be shipping consistently. Correct?
That's the only way. And ensure that you make decisions where you build something minimal, viable, but also minimally useful.
Because what metrics do you track? Revenue, North Star, fine. What
adoption of the features. Every product manager should, for themselves, define a metric which is adoption metric for the feature they're shipping.
Right.
A lot of times, that's where, product managers get inefficient, is that they shy away from measuring what they ship.
Okay.
There are a lot of a lot of people, even though, this is also something which I've seen, even though product managers, you might even pick up one of your superstar customer facing person, but after they become product manager, they don't even talk to the customer, right? They get too busy shipping, but it's a balance. Ship features, go in front of the customer. That's what I'm saying. You need to be having that courage to go back and show what you built.
Okay.
Right? Do the demos.
Right. So number of demos could be great metrics that are there. You're talking about North Star metric or revenue. You're talking about adoption, your feature adoption. You're talking about, I'm assuming, leading metrics are daily active customers, monthly, and then annuities.
All of that are, I would say, secondary metrics.
Yeah, these are leading metrics.
If customer is paying you more and more as you ship more and more, that's the number one metric. You have to look at these second order details only when you don't see increase in the number of revenue.
Yeah, right. I mean,
then you go find out. Then as a product manager, you go dig deeper and find out what is not working.
Fair enough, right? These are business metrics as well, right? So,
correct.
As an operations person, or as a CEO, or as a CRO, they're also going to be looking at similar metrics. The board probably
absolutely,
right? So, but I'm sure as a product manager, you're also supposed to be tracking metrics behind the scenes, which doesn't come up, right? The efficiency of a product manager, right? In some sense, like time, how long are you taking to shipping? Could be an example.
Yeah,
but walk us through what other metrics are behind the scenes, like which a normal person wouldn't get to know.
So I think if at all there is another metric, which let's say a product manager has to be obsessed, is about number of customers you see a feature or product.
That's an adoption. We still talking about product adoption, but in a group of product product marketers, product managers along with engineers, what's the metric that is being discussed there?
So typically this is what is discussed. I mean, there are a couple of them, right? One, I said number of customers. Second one is number of features shipped, and along with this, number of bugs.
Bugs.
Number
of bugs is not exposed.
Number of defects. Because end of the day, you don't want to ship so quickly, not worrying about quality, right? And for various reasons, you also start driving adoption in customers. You will see there's a churn. See, the another most important metric every product manager, specifically a SaaS product manager, is to go measure your churn.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, the churn, of course, I'm talking about the controllable churn, in a product manager's purview, is mostly because of the bugs in the product, right?
Right.
That's the most important.
So, this is a hidden gem again. If you're a product manager, revenue, adoption is all great. You should be looking at it like that. But do not forget, in the meetings with engineers specifically, do not forget to track the bugs.
Of course,
Right.
you need to allocate. I think that's where a seasoned product manager, when he's basically doing the trade-offs, always would also allocate enough resources or bandwidth or prioritize, to fix or resolve the bugs. And like I said, the most important thing, the job of a product manager, is to do prioritization for the build team, right? Day in job. If you ask me, like, hey, what is the day-to-day job of a product manager?
Yeah, walk us through that. The day,
The
life of
only
a
job,
product manager.
there is one and only thing to be done by a product manager is to help prioritize the task for the build team, which is engineers, designers, everybody else around that, right? How efficiently you can prioritize them based on the outcome you want to optimize for. Could be revenue, could be adoption, could be reduction of churn. Your job is to turn the plate and say, hey, can I do these 5 things in this order, right? And the product manager gets efficient day in by day out by doing that consistently, and then the outcome will show up.
And that's usual. So, how does a day of a product manager kind of look like?
Yeah, I think, if you ask me, I could say what is my day.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, every product manager, there are people who start with by listening music,
Fair enough.
but yeah, I think in general, I generally look at my support tickets. That's what I do. Every day I enjoy, being in front of the customers. I always wanted to reply to few customers, right? I want to see what's happening there. I spend like at least an hour every day, all through my life of spending my time on the support.
Support.
Yeah, look, understand where the customers are
What are they asking?
happy, where the customers are getting frustrated. Are they really understanding what you build in the product, right? I think a lot of times, it's all about a gut what you build over a period of time, saying that, hey, this is how you wanted your customers to use the product, but it's the realization which you get how much useful it is. I think a lot of time, I've also got surprised where I would have built a feature assuming that the customer would want to use it this way, but I end up seeing them use it for something else. I mean,
Right.
I've even seen, for example, I'll give you an example where when I last time built, I thought I was building a product only for sales, right? But I kind of was surprised for one of the large, I would say, e-commerce, company using it for hiring then their delivery partner. They use that whole Kanban board, they customized it. Wait, that's a kind of realization. These are kind of good moments you'll have when you
Yeah.
see your customer improvise on what you built more than the product manager.
I have a lot of other questions that are coming. but okay, it's not for
But
now.
that's a whole thing, right? See, as a I always prioritize spending time in support. Go look at your support,
Okay,
your
support
chat,
is the first day, first
live
half of
chat.
the day.
First few hours goes in that. Then look at prioritizing the bugs which come in, because
Okay.
you need to basically optimize as a product manager. Your focus is to help your customer facing teams, right? I would spend my time in prioritizing what is the top 10 frustration of the customers, which is basically creating a negative impact on your customer facing teams. Customer facing teams are happy, I think your
Your-
50% job is
yeah.
done as product manager. So I would basically optimize them, talk to them, because a lot of times a product manager availability for the GTM team itself is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's also 50% problem, because the GTM team would basically feel more confident. They will trust that there's somebody in the product or the build team who's listening and who will take care of this over a period of time.
Right.
A lot of times product managers don't optimize for that. Spend time with the GTM team, listen
Okay.
to them. If required, get on a call with them, because they are end of the day selling a product which you have built, right? Then comes spending time with your engineers and designers.
Okay.
That's the way I would.
Wow. So if you're aspiring to become a product manager, get to work, listen to music on the way. And then in the first half, start with looking at all the customer tickets, support tickets.
Yes.
Right? What are the queries? And then you kind of get the whole
Feel of
idea before you still start getting hungry. You go and start looking at the bugs. Right? Okay, how many bugs have been found?
Customer frustrations.
Customer frustrations, right? Bugs is the very customer frustrations. You formulate over lunch, so you have lunch, and then GTM time.
Yeah.
So you have to go, probably get down to the other side of the office where the sales folks are there. Talk to them. Hey, what are you feeling? What are your
Yes.
customers saying? Because by that you already have a sense of all the bugs and the frustrations that the customers have spoken about, and then you talk to them, get an understanding of what's happening on the shop floor, who's the next big customer, what's
Correct.
happening there, what do they want. You kind of correlate that into your big brain.
It helps them win some deals.
And help them win some deals as well, right? Hey, this has already been taken care. Go ahead, commit to the customer, and you also earn a very good name if you're there. And come back, scratching your head in the elevator because you solved for the customer problem, but you don't know how to build it. So you go back and then talk to your engineers on how to build it, get that whole meeting orchestrated, technology, everything that comes in. Prioritization, and then you're ready.
And based on what you learned in the first 3-4 hours, that's what I'm saying. See, when you come back and talk to your build team, you're also in a better state. You're more knowledgeable, to prioritize things for them. Right. That's how, and this do day in, day out. And then I think
you're a dynamic product manager. You become not one team that you work with, you work with 3 other teams. Fantastic, Sri.
It's fun.
So
you're now convinced to become a product manager, Ramesh?
No.
Not yet. So anyway, I have few questions now because last time you put me on spot.
Okay.
Right. Now that you said you're not going to become a product manager.
No, I'm not going to become a product manager.
I have few questions which I'm going to ask you the question now. Now that you've been drilling me down.
Yeah.
So between sales and marketing, if you're given a choice, I mean, I know you've done both the jobs,
yes,
right? Pan India, outside India, right? You have to pick only one job, sales or marketing. Which one would you pick in a SaaS company?
Okay, in a SaaS company, as a co-founder, I will pick sales.
You pick sales. Okay, not bad.
The reason why is being a marketer gives you a lot more time to settle into the role. Right? You can figure out market. No one can say it's bad market. Right? You try a few things, some of things work. That's not the case for sales. Right? Got to it. Every day is a reset to zero. Every month is reset to zero.
Okay.
Right? And then you grow, and that's when you see revenue grow. So I love in Avatar, I'm always looking at sales, but marketing gives me the ability to be creative, try new things, and all. But sales for sure, and that's what I've always enjoyed doing previously as well.
Okay, interesting. But let's say you keep your answers very short.
Okay.
So now you've been in, this is like very personal, I think a personal question. You've been in multiple cities in Chennai, in India. So if you're picked between Chennai, Hyderabad and Kolkata, which is your favorite city? If you want to spend your rest of your life.
Hyderabad. Was it fast enough?
It was fast enough. Why?
I mean, it's a multicultural city. Of course, a lot of restaurants that serve beer.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
It's a multicultural. It's really, you should see the size of the roads. The infrastructure is fantastic. I mean, I can keep on talking. You want me to?
Okay, yeah, you want to be
short, right?
short.
So
let me go to the next one. I think you said you want to become a sales. You want to run you like to run sales, right?
Yep.
Inbound or outbound? Don't think too much.
Outbound.
Why?
I've done inbound I've been an inbound marketer for a long time. This is I've also realized that if you're doing outbound, if you're talking to customers, there's a propensity to earn more.
I mean, that was a surprise because I thought you're a big sort of inbound.
I think one big reason why I'm here with you, co-founder of High Performer, is to get out of my comfort zone. So outbound is definitely what.
Got it. So now I think you said you want to move to Hyderabad.
Yep.
You said you don't like marketing, you want to do sales.
Yes.
And you said you hate inbound, but
no, I didn't say I hate inbound. I said I prefer outbound in this new role. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty much cool.
Okay.
That was awesome answers, Ramesh. So I think this is a wrap. I think you want to do a closing on this?
Yeah, sure. This has been fantastic. Thank you, Sri, for putting me on the spot. But more importantly, talking to us, taking us through what an ideal Rama should be, ideal product manager should be, and taking us through the day of a product manager. And I think a lot of aspirants out there who want to become product managers. This is just one cue. Get in touch with Sri. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Feel free to subscribe to this podcast, Reset to Zero, and we talk about a lot of this and try and put each other on the spot.
Yeah, and by the way, we are hiring both sales and product managers and marketers. So send us a note or a comment. Happy to do. And also, feel free to let us know what topics you want us to chat. We're also getting to the point where we need help from people, even on topics. So feel free to put your comments. Loving all the comments coming our way. Thanks, Ramesh.
Thank you. It's been a great
for the next one.
Looking forward to the next one. See you around. Bye.
Bye.